Alright, who has not yet gotten a question answered?
You got my brain going. One of the earlier things. O&A, they're an interesting way to kind of revive the OAV market. Which you can basically throw out something like Time of Eve, 6 episodes, you get a great story, have as much time as you want to put in it. The problem is, how do you make that profitable? Because that's the way to revive it, but I don't see any way to make money off of that.
For those who didn't hear, he asked about the O&A, original net animation, I believe it's called, where it's just basically a direct-to-video thing that's put on the network. They're usually very short. I mentioned Time of Eve, you know, G-Con. That was actually the series last year that I liked the most. It was probably my favorite series that I saw last year, and I recommend that. And I think, though, that they still have to make money off of the DVD sales. So I think for Time of Eve, even they're actually releasing it on theaters, like, didn't they?
Yeah.
They did that. So I don't think it's really like viable. But
they also made a bunch of indie albums, and basically they try to, like traditionally market it and kind of do the whole normal, idea of how they do it.
I think. I'll give her Natalia. Yeah, no, you can bring it. All right. We have to credit Natalia for one thing, and that is being an incredibly popular internet animation. Originally, it was supposed to be on TV, but South Koreans whined about the depiction of Korea in the show, so then it got shifted to internet only. But it has been huge. I was actually talking to the brand manager, and she was in her video. Yeah, there they are. It's been selling real well for Funimation here in the U.S. as well. So it's clear that some shows can establish themselves streaming only. But Natalia had a big head start by being a web manga to begin with, so all of its fans were already consuming it online.
I mean, I think original net animation is kind of the future, but it's also terrifying because, like, I know the way American cartoons are funded is kind of on this commercial basis and like buying ads, ad airtime, that kind of thing. That's where you get the money to hire people. So when I was working in animation, like, it'd already been cut, all the actual key animations overseas, and like just do certain creative processes in the States. When you start cutting the commercial people out and you're just putting it on the web, there is no financial backing for a giant staff of people. And like until, you're right, until it's like commercially viable, until there's some kind of support network for it. Where Natalia had television money, just never happened to air on television. I know the market model for how Japanese television programs air is very different, and maybe when they put things on the web, they're counting on DVD sales too, and like on the hard kind of media behind it. But we don't really, like, it's going to change eventually, but it's going to have to be a bit different. I think maybe a direct-to-Hulu type thing might be a sort of thing, but Hulu is still coming from that broadcast mentality. But it is a huge change in market model.
Yeah, I mean, the question of how do you monetize, online broadcasting is still something that companies are trying to answer. There are companies like, Crunchyroll and Funimation are starting to actually make money off the whole process, but that's still rare. It's still something that happens only vanishingly, only with a few titles.
And I do feel like I'm living in the future when I watch Hulu, and at the beginning of the episode it says something like, do you want to watch a longer ad right now, or little ads throughout the show? And I click on it. And I love how I can click on it too and say, no, I'm totally not interested in Geico. I don't own a car. Like, if I could get that removed and only have ads that appeal to me, or like local advertisements, like, I would love that. It's just really, I mean, I think eventually they'll get to an advertising space where they can really tell because you're logged in already, they should have some kind of demographic information about you.
Yeah,
they should know more, because they don't know enough. There should be ads for, like, my local Japanese grocery store. That's where I'm shopping.
And there still needs to be a shift in thinking among advertisers too, because online advertising is still ferociously undervalued.
We talked about Natalia, so you get a Natalia opinion, which is a con exclusive.
Or you can trade it for something.
All right, who has not asked a question already?
I just want to ask, what are your interests or hobbies? Like, who do you have to anime or games? And if you're West, Mike's will go last.
Interesting request. These days, my hobby's been moving from California to Texas. That's all I've been doing in my spare time, really. I read a lot of books, a lot of fiction. I watch some TV.
I do reading basically, and I try writing some stuff on my own too, basically fiction, nonfiction. I've been trying to catch up on classics right now. Magical realism is an interesting thing, and Russian literature, so who knows. I'm trying to go down with some Nobel Prize winners. It's because, I really haven't read a lot of stuff. It kind of made me realize.
I guess learning Japanese doesn't count because that's kind of related. But lately I've been becoming a whiskey enthusiast, and I don't mean an alcoholic. I mean like going to whiskey tastings where they just give you a little bit of a lot of different kinds of expensive whiskey, and like learning all about the process to the point where some of my friends run a really great website if you're over 21 and interested. There's like NYCC.com or something along those lines where they list all the tastings in the city like that happen every week. Sometimes they're totally free, and it's amazing. So I drink a lot of expensive whiskey for free in small and reasonable amounts.
I don't know about that.
Sure.
I have a friend who once went to a whiskey tasting, and he texted me later and was like, hey man, did you know that if you drink a whole bunch of whiskey, you get really drunk?
But you can pour it out. You don't have to drink the whole.
Do they give you a spitter?
You don't have to spit it out, but you can. You just pour out the rest that you don't want. Is the thing. Yeah, there's like a bucket. It's not as much you don't spit it out. You just drink tiny sips. How much? You can't really take giant gulps of whiskey anyway. I'm not like doing shots. That's horrible.
What I do on the side can be summed up in a single word: soccer. I play it. I go to MLS Cup every year. I went to the World Cup this past summer. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. It's an incredibly cool hobby if you like meeting people and you like traveling. It's really fun and interesting.
And you have the money to do the traveling.
Yeah. Well, I don't really have the money to do the traveling, but I do it anyway, which means I'm going to be paying a lot of credit card bills for the next few years.
Yeah.
Which is good, because that's just in time for me to save for the next World Cup. Yeah, I've appeared on television with Drew Carey at the last MLS Cup. He's one of the owners of the Seattle Sounders, and they hosted MLS Cup 2009. I won a contest, basically, just for shooting a goofy video of me going up to New England Revolution players at a Meet the Team event and asking stupid questions. They flew me to Seattle, I got to meet Drew Carey, and I got to be on TV asking him interview questions.
Was it everything you ever dreamed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I got to ask him about action figures, just stupid questions, just to try and crack him up. And he gave as good as he got. I do stupid stuff in the stands. There's sometimes I'll wear like a wrestling mask, and I had one of them with me, and he's just like, well, where are the other masks? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, the ones with straps and zippers and attachments. Well said. But yeah, that's my thing, soccer.
Yeah. The question is, out of all the shows that we've reviewed, are there any we don't like?
Most of them, actually.
Yeah,
The majority, unfortunately.
I'm tagging mine on Delicious, the tag agreeing site. If you go to delicious.com/Aaron/perishable, that would be all.
Honestly, it's just that there's a lot of it's just average. You can't even really hate it that much. So I don't know if disliking is the wrong term. It's just like wallpaper, basically, when you're watching it.
Guys, we have about 2 minutes left.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, really. One last question. So who's got the best question in the room? Oh, it's hard to say no to Ed.
We're not happy.
We've asked questions from you. He's new and he's new. So I'm gonna make it.
Gentlemen, anything would you remember?
Well, actually, the follow-up is there in the series to your first year. Maybe like the first couple episodes you saw you didn't like, and then a couple years later look back and said, I really miss it.
Well, I didn't rewatch it years later, but Baccano actually was a series that I did not like that much for the first few episodes because it's intentionally confusing. It's a complete mess, and then it sorts itself out though by around, I think, halfway point. Turned out a lot better.
Oh yeah, we gotta wrap it up. The Wallflower is really horrible for like the first part of the show, and then like I think the second half they maybe have a new director, and it turns into a completely different like funny comedy. The manga is also terrible of that.
Didn't
the Excel Saga guy.
Yeah.
And then it's
Yeah, Navishi. For me, it would be Macross 7. That really is a show that, like, for the first 8 or 10 episodes, it's just kind of crummy and mediocre, and then it takes the series idea of pop music saving the universe to its logical conclusion in just this wonderful, hilarious, and spectacular way. And after about episode 11 or 12, it just gets this incredible momentum, and it's just really enjoyable and entertaining.
All right, time it up. I had the opposite happen. It was Bleach. Oh yeah, come up, yell me, get a T-shirt.
Where's my stuff? I'm gonna get the T-shirt.
Yeah.
I have.
So if anyone wants a T-shirt, come on.
Or a bunch of.